Meeting, town hall is closed to the public and the board members will participate in this meeting remotely. Okay, so we want the jurisdictional opinion. Let me take a roll call here. We have Barbara Brennisell, Leon
Here.
Shreves,
Mike Fisher.
Mike Fisher, thank you. So we're not quite there yet. We need one more person to get it. Am I missing somebody? Nope.
No, we need one more person.
We need one more person. So before we begin any discussions, let's wait for John or Marty or somebody to join us. Still not quite there yet. So Hillary, it looks like you've gotten a do.
It looks like I got what?
A do. Your hair's all piled up on your head.
Oh, I do. You know what? I went for a jog at lunch today. Not that everybody needs to know this. And then I hopped in the shower quick and I forgot my hairbrush. So I have a do. And get this, I went for a jog while listening to a wastewater seminar, which was like more torturous than running. So it was a physical and mental workout. It took me to a new level, I think.
That sounds exciting.
It's torturous in a very interesting way.
Yeah, really. Okay, Ben is here. As soon as he logs in.
How do you take notes when you're jogging, Hillary?
Well, good news was I'd heard all the information before. So I just took mental notes.
Okay, we have myself, Benjamin, Barbara, and Michael here. So we have a quorum. So let's begin the discussion with the jurisdictional opinion.
Perfect. It's for Edward Bendy, and I see him and Peter Nell right here on my square here, and they reside at 86 Upper Marsh Road. The entrance to the property is on Blue Heron Road. It's map 41, parcel 30, and they would like to build a detached studio, 1 bedroom on their property. All of the work will be taking place outside of the buffer zone, and our contract will file the necessary paperwork in order to proceed with that construction. Prior to filing, we would like to confirm that we can allow equipment to enter the property via a flat area with no vegetation on the Blue Heron Road side of the property. The area is just within the buffer zone, but no alteration of the landscape would be required, merely the temporary passage of equipment. So we were out there. It's a very small section. Half of that entrance would be outside of the 100-foot buffer zone, and about 10 feet are within the 100-foot buffer zone, so going to 90 feet from the edge of the marsh. It's pretty reasonable. It's a flat area. There's no trees or vegetation that need to come down. So the request seems like one that you can approve pretty easily.
Can we request that any damage to the area be restored?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just kind of leased at the moment.
Okay, well, if there's any like truck tracks or something like that, that it be raked and, fixed up.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's pretty reasonable to me. Does anybody else have any questions on the commission? Does anybody have any questions or statements from the public?
If not, I will move that we approve the JO as long as the site is just restored, if any damage is done.
Right. I'll second that. We'll have a voice vote. Ben, how do you vote?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
And Leon, yes. So that passes. Sounds like a good thing. Good luck with your studio. Sounds great. Okay, so then we want to have the Salcornia sampling. Is that right, Hillary?
Yes.
We'll move that one up.
And we
Okay,
have
he's-
Dr. Brooke Moyers here from UMass to present the project. Her interns or her students could not be with us tonight. That was Alice Palmer, who we had spoken to. So Dr. Moyers, can you go ahead and give us an overview of your project, please?
Great.
Sure, I'm a last minute sub for my graduate student, Alice Palmer. So there might be some stuff that like she's already covered or that I'm redundant with, so please let me know if so. So I'm at University of Massachusetts, Boston, here in Boston, and we're a relatively new lab, have a new project looking at Salicornia depressa, which is the native annual most common species of the pickleweeds or swamp fire, whatever you want to call them, that grow all along the Cape. They're actually less common out of Wellfleet than the perennial species is, which is Salicornia perennis, but we're studying the annual one. And one thing that it does that's really neat is because it can handle salt really well, it has specialized cells that it pumps sodium ions into. It's not very picky about the kind of ions that it pumps into those cells. So it also can accumulate heavy metals, and it can accumulate those metals at higher concentration in the tissue than it does than are present in the environment. So that hyperaccumulation's great, potentially as a tool in a native plant for the use of cleaning up places that have contamination with heavy metals, which include things like lead and arsenic and copper and a bunch of other industrial contaminants that are still out there and being added these days. So as part of our studying of this, we'd like to include sampling in Duck Creek. We already have approval from the Audubon Society to sample the Wellfleet Audubon site. And one thing we're trying to do is have a paired lower use, lower human impact site with a higher use, higher impact site. What sampling means for us is we go out one day, sometimes 2 days, but usually it's one day at a low tide. We walk along the sort of high tide line looking for plants, and we harvest up to 50 individual plants. They're little plants that tend to grow in dense stands. We harvest only one plant every 2 meters. That's to minimize impact on the population. And we don't think we're having a large impact in this sampling on the populations. But that's also up to you guys to decide. In addition to sampling the plants, what we do is we sample the microbial community that's growing in the roots. So we pull the roots out and stick them in a tube and then later pull off the stuff that's growing on the tube. And we also take soil samples. So we take a sample for every 10 plants. So if we harvest 30 plants, then we're collecting 3 soil samples. If we harvest 50, we're collecting 5 soil samples. The soil samples we analyze for composition of things that are known to be toxic. And the soil sampling is probably the most of concern to a conservation commission. We take, it's a 3-inch diameter, 6-inch deep section of the soil. We think it's of use because we share that information back with the stakeholders for that area, so then you can know what's present in your environment. But it is a potential visual impact. They're little holes, but they're a hole in a space. Yeah, that's, I think, the very broad overview very quickly. Feel free to ask me questions if any of that didn't make sense or if there's additional details that you'd like to know.
Well, I have a question. What happens when these plants die and they've absorbed all these heavy metals?
Yeah, at the moment, they decompose in whatever natural system, or the tide moves them around a little bit. In the application we're proposing, we're thinking about this in the context primarily of things like dredge sediments and thin layer placement to build up marshes to help them be more resilient against climate change, where we're adding a bunch of stuff on top of an area. Then we go in and we seed this pioneer species. And then at the end of the season, we harvest most of them out. So we were moving it that way, and then we can deal with the contaminants there. In a natural system, they just go back into the system.
Right. Okay.
But we're not actually doing any seeding. Yeah, Barbara.
Okay, so my questions are, why this site? Let's start with that one.
Sure. It's the closest site to the Wellfleet Audubon site. We like to have, we're trying to have sampling across the whole Massachusetts and Rhode Island, New Hampshire coasts to get a full sense of the geographic variation in both the populations of the plants and the microbes that are associated with them. And
Okay,
so
so this is a high use site, is that
it's
what?
a relatively high use site, has a relatively longer history. For example, on Nantucket, we have a sampling site in Nantucket Harbor, and then another site that's Folgers Marsh that's relatively untouched. We're trying to have this paired site so we
Okay.
can compare things that are directly due to use and separate those from variation that's due to geography or other larger scale spatial differences.
Okay, because I could think of a lot of other sites in Wellfleet that are high use sites that are closer to the Audubon.
Sure, but we've gone out and we've looked for Salicornia depressa, and it's the best site for us would be sampling in Duck Creek.
Okay. My other question is, how many grams of soil get excavated to see the roots?
Oh, no, none. We just pulled the plant out. It's whatever's on the root itself.
Okay, so why did you say there'd be a hole in the ground?
We're sampling
Sure.
soil as well. Sorry, I went over that very quickly. So
Right.
each plant, we pull it out, including
Right.
and then the roots themselves, we're pulling microbes off of that. It's just
Right.
whatever to the roots, and it's not like a very much of the soil. Then we're also, so that's 30 to 50 plants. We're doing that. And then for every 10 plants, we're taking one soil sample.
And how many grams of soil?
That's a good question. Depends on how dense the substrate is, but it's more or less equivalent to this. It's about 6 inches deep and 3 inches in diameter. So sometimes that's in a marshy area where it's made of organic material, it's lighter. And sometimes it's in a rockier area, and so it's heavier. But it's the volume is about as much as this.
So can you fill the hole with adjacent materials?
We could do that, yes.
Okay, because people in Wellfleet want to ask about everything that's happening. When they see a hole, they say, what's coming out of that hole? What's being done?
Yeah,
So-
we also have signage out when we're out, and we also talk to folks when we're out. We usually get some conversations started when we're out there. But yes, we can definitely fill in with local material nearby, shove it in.
Yeah, I fill my turtle holes with just the sand that's around there, so that's fine.
Leanna, question.
Yes, Michael?
So are you going to be doing this before October 1st when the harbor is going to be dredged and all sorts of sediment is going to be in the water that's not normally there?
Yeah, we don't expect those sort of shorter term patterns to impact the soil composition or the plant composition from the whole season. But we'd like to get out there when we have as soon as we have approval to do so. So if we had approval, we could potentially get out sooner, but before the end of the season, which is like late October.
Thank you.
So is the goal of this study is this like a canary in the coal mine, or I mean, are you looking for the health of the environment, or are you looking for the value of these plants in the environment?
So this particular sampling is a survey of what's out there, getting a sense for the landscape. Essentially, it's our first step.
Mhm.
And then we're following up with additional work with sites that are more impacted and have particularly interesting compositions. But that would require future years additional approval. That's our next step.
So this is setting the baseline or doing an initial survey?
We know that there are heavy metals in our New England coastal sediments. We know from previous sampling in the last couple of years, we've seen it. We're trying to get a better sense of the scope of what that looks like. And in particular, in the places where this plant is already growing naturally.
Hey, Barbara?
My question is, does this require an RDA or some kind of filing or not?
I
Hillary?
think so.
No, I just asked that they come and inform us. It's a scientific research project. They can go forth and do that. I just wanted you to be aware and make sure you weren't opposed to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because there is some disturbance. I mean, people just aren't allowed to go around and pick plants in our jurisdiction. I mean, that's not allowed. So I was just wondering if there's a filing involved.
So we have all of their information. It could be a jurisdictional opinion or administrative review, however you know.
Oh, administrator review. I like that one. Okay. It's up to you.
Enough?
Hilda. You're the administrator. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions or statements? We could just go through the attendees and the commission to see if they have any issues with it. I personally don't. How about you, Ben?
No, I think it's a good idea.
I do too. Michael
Sounds useful.
and Barbara?
Okay by me.
Okay, so I think you have a unanimous
It's
approval. of
also
these.
okay by me.
It's
Oh.
okay.
Oh,
It's also
are you
okay by
here now,
me.
John? Oh,
Oh,
okay.
we have more.
Oh,
commissioners.
Marty's here. Sorry, Marty.
Yes, that's okay. Yes, that's fine by me.
All right, great. Sorry, I didn't know that you were on there, Marty.
Thank you all for listening. I'm
Thank-
happy to answer other questions as well.
Well, you know what? One more. Could you share your results? I mean, we have a lot of these people doing studies in Wellfleet, and we don't know what the results are or what's happening, as a result. So we don't have an order of conditions here, but mine would be to share your results with us. Would appreciate-
Absolutely, that is a goal. Sometimes I think these things, part of it might be the timeline. I expect to get results in the next 2 years, so it
That's
might be
fine.
a while. But
That's
I'm happy
fine.
to share.
That we'll invite you to the Wellfleet Harbor Conference to give the results. of
2023.
your research. Yeah, exactly. Well, we might be able to meet in person. That would be great.
Right. Jeez,
What a
what a
dream.
thought.
What a dream, right? Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Morgan. So there's no more questions. We can move on to Ann Sterling talking to us about Sewells Gutter.
Okay, I want to share my screen and show you this PowerPoint. Just do it.
Great. All right. Yep.
All right. You guys got it?
Yep.
Yes.
Let me get back to the beginning here. And, okay, so I guess the best way to think about it is I've been thinking about how we can be better stewards of Sewells Gutter. It's a small area, as you know. You may not know that as 1944, which is the year I was born, the part of Indian Neck that I now live on was an island, and King Philip Road did not extend onto it. So if you look at this map here, you can see that Sewells Gutter, which is this area, was really just part of the bigger marsh that extended back into Blackfish Creek. I suspect that this is maybe Fox Island, although I'm not quite sure of the scale here. This is Hiawatha Road here. This, I think, is Fox Island Road. And you can see there was a marsh. Some of the old timers remember their grandparents saying that they could row a boat from here onto here. When this got filled, which we can see here in 1960, let me get this out of the way. When we can see here in 1960, this area here was filled in, and there was probably more fill in here, but this is King Philip Road now extending over what we now call the gut and up into here. And if we look over here, we can see the house, my parents' house is here. I think this was Don Jentz's house, and you can see a somewhat direct entry in here along into Sewells Gutter and a fairly straight line without a lot of vegetation. So you see there was and not much water in here. So pretty much a straight line up in here. If we get to, this is from Google Maps, which you can retrieve the older ones from Google Earth, from an image taken in 2005, you can see now that in this area, there's beginning to expand on the near side of this King Philip Road extension. There's more water that comes in here. This area here has become more serpentine in terms of the entryway to the gut. And you can see there are this area here, here's Blackfish Creek. This area here has been filled in. There are 3 houses on it. So it's no longer a marsh that connects these two. And you can also see that by 2005, sand is starting to fill in here. And I put this arrow here because I want you to notice how it lines up with just this bend in Hiawatha Road, which is here, because that will be our marker to show you how that's expanded even further. In 2018, we see kind of more of the same, but now we see a couple of things that are noteworthy. First of all, this whole area now over here, it gets pretty watery at the high tides. There's some trees that have grown in here in this little high point. This entrance area has become much more serpentine, and there's a large sandbar, which is above water at many high tides, but gets covered at both monthly and the quarterly high tides, or if there's a storm, it will get overwashed completely, and this whole area will fill up. If you look at where the sand has ingressed to, you can now see that it's well beyond this area here of Hiawatha and is all the way into here. More growth has happened in here since that time as well. There has been, to give you a sense of the amount of erosion, there's been quite a lot of erosion on the beach. This photo here from 1958 was taken from my parents' land when they were siting their house before they built. And you can see the entrance here to the gut. This wall before the house that I'll just refer to as the Stossel house was built. And you can see that there's greenery right here, all the way up to here. This is Omaha Road along here. If you look at the same area today, you can see that this whole area here of vegetation is gone. And wrong way. And what you have instead is more beach. You see that the tide rack is here, and this is the area that these are the signs that the Conservation Commission put in to ask people not to put more boats on here. But it used to be that this was also all covered with vegetation. So you have much more sand in here, a windier area into the marsh itself, and less vegetation right here. That gives you an overview of what's happened from the time that the gut was created by building the extension of King Philip Road in the late 1950s. On the Hiawatha side, there's also quite a lot of erosion. This here is from 2011, a photo I took that shows the pilings from what I guess is the Old Town Landing, or maybe where the road used to be, still above ground. And from 2021, this may be a little remnant of it, but it's mostly covered over. And this shows the wall with the Stossel house in both cases. So you see how that's changed. The Hiawatha side, which is the northern side, is really a mess. There's large road debris on the bank that slides into the channel. I'm not quite sure when that got dumped and who dumped it, but it's big chunks of cement and asphalt. Every spring, some enterprising tourist or resident decides to hand carry asphalt or cement these chunks into the channel to use stepping stones, or simply because they think it's a cool idea to see if they can dam the channel. So there's the sand that's silting in, plus all these big hand carried pieces of stuff that humans put in every spring. I don't know what it is about spring and building dams, but it seems to get people going. And the road itself, as anyone who lives on Hiawatha or walks it knows, is about to fall in some places. It's very close to the edge, and it floods at certain times in certain kinds of storms. This is just an image, some images I took to this summer to show you the chunks of cement and asphalt looking up into the creek a little a little survey video, just to show you what it looks like at low tide. Here are some of the stones that people have put in to make stepping stones here and here. And there's more in here as well. So you get a sense of what it looks like right now. A lot of debris and then sand. So why should we care? I don't need to tell you guys this, but let me go over it. I think it's worth saying. First of all, it's a very heavily used area for recreation in the summer. The gut itself is really used a lot by little children. It's a safe place for them to go and play in the water. They find all sorts of little creatures. They have little plastic pails that they leave behind, and I pick up in the fall. And I bring them over to the swap shop. But in the meantime, they've collected hermit crabs and other little fish. And I think they get excited about what's growing there. And as I said, there's a collection for the swap shop every fall. More importantly, I mean, well, let me not balance them out. Let me say, in addition, the whole area really provides flood control for the houses on the other side of the gut, for Omaha Road and for Hiawatha. And I'll show you photos to back that up in a second. And it's an important wetlands resource. The flood control, this is a picture taken in the winter, show at a fairly high tide, taken from my driveway. So this is Omaha Road, and you can see how the water has come in and come around the curve and is way over here, and it's got still plenty of place to go without coming up onto Omaha Road or backing up onto King Philip. This photo down here I took also within the last year, standing on the King Philip area, the King Philip extension that separates this marsh from the Fox Island area. And again, you can see how in a big high tide, it just fills up with water, and there's a lot of water left, a lot of space still for it to take water. So personally, I'm very grateful for it. And I think it's very valuable from that point of view. And as a wetlands resource, we've got turtles, little eels, thousands of minnows, and 4 or 5 species of crabs, birds, lots of, obviously, the shellfish, and larger mammals such as coyotes or otter. I've seen in the winter sometimes river otter come over and nab a duck or two if they're hungry. I have photos of them loping across my field. So it's an important habitat. This, just a few quick pictures before I end. This coyote has been feeding on a seal carcass that washed up into the gut. Those are black duck in the background. We have great blue heron there all the time, probably daily. I took this picture of this lady this spring, or in May. She was out doing her thing, and then she was making her way back to the marsh when I saw this. And she just crawled up this bank and back into the grass. We've got migrating egrets, large numbers of them in the spring or fall. These 3 are from the spring, this spring. A couple of years ago, we had all of these things, and I have videos of them I didn't include in this. All of these tracks are from teeny tiny baby horseshoe crabs. So one year, this whole area got used as a horseshoe crab nursery, and they were, and that's what's making all of these tracks. And they wintered over. I found them again the following spring, and then I guess as they got big enough, they moved out into the bay. So they aren't always there, but as I said, some years there are just large numbers of them. In the winter, lots of ducks. These are black ducks. We get various 2 species of mergansers. We get buffleheads, and also continue to have herons going through. So, what can we do to be good stewards of this area? One thing I hope maybe that, and I don't know how this works, but it seems to me that maybe we could get the AmeriCorps volunteers or involved in some cleanup where all of that material has been hand carried into the channel, and restacking the debris back on the bank. I mean, ideally, and I know this would cost money, it would be wonderful to clear the cement and asphalt out of there altogether and put something a little bit more, I I don't know, environmentally worthy in its place, but I know that would be like a whole project costing money. But the just fixing that bank with some muscle from some young people is a doable task, and maybe that could be in our worldview soon. I think we need to assess the effects of dumping even more sand there. The so-called nourishment projects every year. Sand is dumped along the Stossel Pier and along the stone embankment there. And I watch the trucks do it every year, and within 3 or 4 days, it's all gone. It's all washed away. I've had an engineer tell me, oh, it doesn't wash into the marsh, it only washes out. I'm a little dubious that we're sure where that sand goes. I'm also equally sure that some of the sand comes from the erosion. But it would be nice to know where everything is coming from. There's also nourishment that goes on Field Point further down to the south. And some of that sand, I'm sure, washes up and around and ends up lodging in this channel. So I think there's a bit of borrowing from Peter to pay Paul here. We're dumping sand to maintain the beach, but at the same time, the sand is clearly filling up this marsh area. And if it gets filled up and there's no place for the water to go, I think that will lead to flooding and impoverishment of the wildlife environment. And other than that, I'd like to open this up for other ideas or discussions, and I will escape out of the screen sharings. Well, I guess I can see people this way, can't I? So in case anyone wants me to put a slide back up.
You're concerned about the effects of the sand being deposited there, and it's pretty clear that it's building up there over the years. What would be the effect if it were to be dredged out or cleared out? If we were just to bring some backhoes in there, and would it come back right away, possibly? Or
I don't know that. The other anecdotal thing is that I used to be able to easily kayak up that channel at mid-high tide, and now I can't. I have to get out and pull the boat quite a ways up. But I don't know how fast it would come back. We could see movement of quite a lot of sand over a period of 10 or 20 years if we did dredge it, but also kept nourishing the bank next to Stossel and elsewhere, which I understand that we're legally required to do this. I don't know how long it would take to fill up, and that's why I think I'm a layperson. I mean, I am a biologist, and I have certain observational skills, and I take a lot of pictures. So I can give you what I see, but I think I think we need to consult people who know more about sand movement to know what the effects of that would be. But if we could open up that channel some, I think it would probably be a good thing. But I think we need to find out more about what the impact of doing that would be.
right.
Excuse me, do we know who's dumping the debris there? I mean,
Does
it
anyone
looks like
know
it
who
comes-
did? It happened once or twice. I don't know. Someone probably knows how that happened.
Because to me, it looks like it's road material, or it's a.
It is road material. It may even have been the town did it.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. You know.
Yeah, it's not a continuing thing. It happened, I don't know when, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. There's a story, and I don't know what the story is, but somebody around must know what the story is.
Well, I live down on the corner of Pilgrim, on the corner of Ione Road and Indian Neck. Okay, and so I walk that all the time. I'm familiar with that area. I'm constantly walking down and around through there.
Exactly.
And I know what you mean by the debris, but I haven't seen it increase. It's been there for a long time, I think.
It's been there probably 20 years or so. Yeah, something like that. And as I said, people move it around. It's now, people pull bits and pieces of it into the channel, as I say, to make stepping stones. I guess in the spring, people don't want to get their feet wet crossing that.
What about sand? You said you think there's been sand dumped there? Is that? Was
Oh,
that
sand
that's
is
not
dumped there
removed?
every year. Yeah, sand
By
is
the
dumped there
town?
every year. No, by some of the owners. I think Mr. Stossel, before he passed away, and now his wife, were required to do this. And Barbara or Hillary or somebody would know this better than I. But it's dumped along the wooden revetment that holds up that house, and along the stone wall that's right next to it, up to where the town stairs are. And it's part of the required beach nourishment, as far as I understand. It's built up halfway along that wall, and dumped into those stones. And then, as I said, it's washed away within weeks.
Ryan, do you have your hand up?
Yes. So the reason that the side next to Hiawatha is in a straight line is because it's artificial. It was part of a development plan that was going to basically channelize the gutter into the Fox Island marshes. And it was in the 50s or 60s. And the Conservation Commission at that time ordered a cease and desist after a lot of excavation had already been done. The spoils that were the result of dredging out that section are basically the high point in the middle of the gutter. And on the older maps previous to that, there's only a small area of open water towards basically where Hiawatha Road is currently. So the landform as it exists right now is mostly artificial.
Well, and also because of the fact that the King Philip Road extension essentially blocked, it was one continuous marsh, as you could see in that original 1944 map. Am I still sharing? Is that still visible?
Yeah.
to people?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
yes.
So, I mean, this was all a continuous marsh here. And so when the King Philip extension was built right here, and making this part of Indian Neck connected to the mainland, that also stopped any flow through into the Blackfish Creek. And I appreciate Ryan adding in about the dredging. I hadn't realized that about the high point. I know that there are little mounds or hills. Barbara, you find the turtles lay eggs on them over on the Omaha side, and that was dumping from that. I know my mother got very involved with stopping it when the town was starting to fill in over there on the Omaha side as well.
Barbara, I don't want your hand to get cramped. So
No, I just want to thank Anne for this wonderful presentation, and these historic photos are really fantastic, and,
Yep.
and seeing what's going on and what has been going on. But I wanted to make a couple of points. One is that sand renourishment is being reconsidered not only townwide, but coastwide, because it's been realized that sand renourishment on certain projects is going to move. So the idea is that sand may be required, but it may be that you put it someplace else and not in front of your own structure based on where the sand is moving. So the town has a project going with Eastham and Provincetown to look at the whole coastwide issue of where the sand is moving. So that
That
will
would
be
be
better.
so useful.
So that
Yeah.
would be better informed as to where sand nourishment can occur. So, I mean,
I'm
it's going
al-
to take a while before we
Yeah.
can make some decisions about this. The
I'm
other-
I'm also wondering with that regard is if, from what Leon said, if we dredged, I mean, maybe it would be possible to move some of that sand to where we want it instead of where it is now.
Well, I'm not sure about that. Dredging projects
either.
are so complex
Mhm.
and requires so much permitting and study that they take years and years and years
I
before
hear
they
you.
happen.
Yeah.
And the other thing I want to bring up is something else we're dealing with in a lot of other Wellfleet locations, and that's sea level rise. So no
Yes.
matter what you do, you're up against Mother Nature in terms of what's going to be happening over the next couple of decades is with reference to sea level rise. So we can only do so much, but we have to prepare for it. So this is a good time to talk about this project and to talk about the implications to the homes around Sewells Gutter and to what will happen. It is a nesting area for state threatened diamondback terrapins. There's a lot of wildlife there. There are homes there, but this is a really good starting point to consider what's going to happen. I don't know where it goes from here, but I think part of the, one of the first responses can be to look at this sand mitigation policy with respect to this coast-wide study that's being done, and to
That'd be
determine
great.
if this is the best place to dump sand to mitigate for certain coastal projects.
Yeah, that would be great. Now, I think, I don't know what the implications of more and more erosion in that area filling up with sand is for flooding, but it does seem to me there would be less place for water to go as you say, Barbara, the sea level rises, the storm surges are more often and higher. So far, Omaha's not flooded, but I think that's a matter of time.
Leon, can I make 2 quick points, maybe 3?
Absolutely. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Mike.
Number 1, in terms of a technical question, just in terms of spelling, you spell it Sewall, right? Seawall, but the maps have it as 2 E's, Sewells.
Sewells, yes.
Sewells. So
Really?
that's one question. Another point is most of it, as you very well know, is owned by the Conservation Trust. And so getting dredging permission on conservation land would be very difficult. It would have to go through various levels of the state body. And the third point is that, again, as you know, one of the problems is at the end of Omaha, there's a lot of vessel impact on the bank there, on the dunes. And when those go down, you're going to get different sort of water patterns and in fact, wind patterns as well.
When you say, Michael, vessel impact, you mean from people storing
Kayaks,
boats there?
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
so
we've been through
that really, that was, for the first time this summer, did not happen because I think the signage went up. People got the message. So for the first time in a long time, there have not been boats stored there.
Well, I think Hillary gets the credit for that.
Mhm.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And the harbor master for towing them away.
Yeah, but the fact is that progress has been made on that question this year.
And parking too.
And parking has been better this year.
Okay.
Now, there is going to be a lot of construction. I think you're having a big project with your seawall, and on the other side, there are some various projects. And so there's going to be a lot of trucks and excess sand and a lot of disturbance in the next year, all up and down on both sides of that.
That's true. The Udowitz project is going to be affecting that a lot.
And there's another project on the other side, on the
I think Michelson, is that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So Hillary, we should look at the sand renourishment conditions on those properties.
Yep.
Again, with respect to the studies that were done by Mark Borelli and where the sand's going, and you know, what would be the best place for renourishment to happen? Because renourishment has to happen, but maybe not right there.
Yeah, I guess. Yes, we can certainly look at that. Yes.
Yeah.
I had another thought on Hiawatha Road with the asphalt and debris. There's another issue with Hiawatha Road, and it's that the road is not actually in the road layout. And so the DPW and I talk about this a lot because we are fully aware that there's an issue with Hiawatha Road. And we're fully aware that that debris is completely unacceptable. But the road isn't in the road layout. So it's kind of a very muddy discussion every time we have it. So the last time we had it, I think there was a request to maybe clarify what we can and can't do with town council. So I can follow up on that. And that picture of the debris reminded me of the gut, where we have a similar problem with asphalt and erosion, just for the commission's sake here. And I did talk to DPW about that one this morning also.
Where is that? The gut, the Sewells
That's the
Gutter?
gut.
Herring
Other
River
part of
Gut.
town.
Oh,
Okay,
Herring,
all right.
Herring River by the Blush.
Yeah.
Right, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
And so we talked about removing asphalt there. So I'm happy to engage the DPW in an asphalt, another asphalt removal project.
Okay.
They sort of feel like I'm the drill sergeant with these crazy projects because I tell them they can't bring heavy machinery or any tracked equipment because sites can't handle it. And so today they asked me if they should get jumpsuits to fulfill my wishes. But
Yeah, well, that's why I thought of AmeriCorps. I mean, I
yeah, so
think,
we've
I
had,
think a group of 20-year-olds could do a lot
Yes,
of hand
and-
carrying.
and I'm hesitant about that. I just want to put that out there because
Okay.
we've had them out at the gut doing this very project for 2 seasons, and they always want to murder us at the end because it's so labor intensive with the
It is labor
wheelbarrow
intensive,
to
right?
move the asphalt. So we need a better technique. So the DPW was going to go out and look at the gut today. So maybe they'll have some brilliant ideas for asphalt removal.
Tell
at
them
this
to
site as well.
tell them to break it up first into smaller chunks.
We talked about jackhammering, and again, they brought up the orange suits. So,
Okay.
so yes, we're working on asphalt removal plans, and we can just, toss Hiawatha into the mix. But we do know there are ownership issues in this area. So,
Okay, well, that's great. I mean, I know this area is infinitely complicated in terms
Yeah.
of roads and town access, and I don't even pretend to know how to solve that. I just wanted to share with you what I see every day.
yes,
It's
thank you.
fabulous. And can you share that PowerPoint with us?
Absolutely.
Okay, I love the historic photos because that really tells the story very well.
Yeah, so it should be in, of course, the recording of this meeting. I also did a practice video this morning that I can so I can share that, or I can just share the free PowerPoint. How would you, do you want the video, or do you want the, I mean,
No,
I just narrated it a little bit.
If you
No,
can give us the PowerPoint,
Yeah.
the slides, because we'll want to
You'll
append
wanna
them
use
to our
them.
meeting minutes. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Great.
all right. I will, it's probably too big to email you, but I'll upload it on Google Drive, Hillary, for you.
Great,
And Barbara,
great.
and yeah,
Very
Thank
okay,
you.
that's easy to do.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Ann. That was great.
Okay,
Fabulous.
you're very welcome. Thanks for
That was very
having
interesting.
ideas about it. Great.
Well, we'll hope to follow through and have some kind of suggestions.
Yeah, I think every
Not
little
just
bit will
not
help.
just leave it out in, outer
Right.
space.
Right, I know.
Leon,
Yes, John?
I think the low hanging fruit on this is the beach nourishment. So what would be nice is if we could get a record of what is actually being nourished right now, which we have.
And where it's going,
And where it's, well, yeah, but first, who's dumping, how much they're dumping, and to what extent the dumping is quantified. Because we ran into that with the Blash House where they had a beach renourishment, but they didn't specify how much. So it would be nice to know what the beach nourishment requirements are and how much is being dumped, and whether that's a finite amount or it's an open-ended amount. And then let's find out where it's going. And I think we got to talk about some of these projects that have ongoing renourishment of calling those back. but I think that's 3 stages down.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend we call folks back until we have the results from the CZM resiliency grant.
Right,
work.
that's what I was saying. Wait.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, any other comments before we move on? Well, thanks again, Ann. That was really interesting. Do we have any
You're
mail?
welcome.
Yes, Leon, I have one. I'll make it very quick.
Okay, this is the CPC correspondence.
Yes.
Okay, please do.
Okay, so as you probably know, I am designated by the Conservation Commission to represent you on the CPC. And each year they have a needs list from each of the organizations that are represented. The one that we have is generally seen as a model because it deals with principles, not individual cases. But every year it has to be submitted again and approved again. And so I'll be sending you this list, I hope you can see it, of 9 points that we've been polishing over the years. I will take any sort of suggestions, we can talk about it, but then we have to vote on it and send it back to CPC so they can make decisions about allocating money, of which there will be money available for purchasing open space. So that was just a heads up.
Okay. Will we have the chance to discuss that as a group again? Once
Yes,
we get
indeed.
the,
That's the intent. I want to just let you know it's coming, so when it appears in your mailbox, you'll know what it is.
okay,
All
But I
right.
hope that Chris will put it on the agenda for next meeting.
Sounds good.
okay. Is there anything else that anybody'd like to speak to? Hillary, John?
Yes, Hillary, what's this of the staircase?
I have no news on the staircase, but I do have a meeting with town council tomorrow to talk about another related subject, so we can talk about that as well. So stay tuned.
Okay. That's a long time coming. God.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, our meeting isn't to discuss that. Our meeting is to talk about our environmental protection regulations and ecological restoration projects. So Hunt Dury from DER and Carol and Christina Odialga and I have been talking about our regulations and how we refer to environmental restoration projects, which is something we put in our regulations a long time ago. But it might not be drafted quite right. It was brought to our attention, so I have a conversation with them tomorrow. Amy recommended additional language that we put in our regulations. So we'll be talking about that at an upcoming meeting as well. So I'll have Amy on the phone tomorrow so I can ask further about the other issue.
Anything else? We could take a few minutes, a 5-minute break before we
We
start.
should
the-
probably do the minutes, approve the minutes of
Oh,
September
yeah,
1st.
right.
I move we approve the minutes.
Well, I would wait, there's one
And then
point.
take a break.
Yeah, I need a break, but go ahead.
Okay, so when we put in the minutes, I immorally left out a recognition of Marty's presentation of himself. And so I would recommend that we put in, I think he sent us some language, but a couple of sentences representing his self-representation in the minutes before they get up on the town website.
Okay,
That's very reasonable.
What we were talking about is the fact that I indicated that I've been a summer resident of Wellfleet since 1975, having spent mostly all summers here and a number of weekends during the year. So I just thought, rather than just saying I was a resident now, new resident for a year and a half, it should indicate I've been here a long time.
Sounds
I think
good.
that's quite appropriate.
you're a resident with history.
Right.
So I would second Barbara's approval of the minutes with that change.
All right, we'll have a voice vote. Ben
Yes.
and Marty, were you here
Yes.
first? Yes, you were. So, okay, you say yes. Barbara?
Yes.
John, are you still here?
Yes.
No. Oh, yeah, there you are. And Michael?
Yes.
And I say yes too. So, okay, I move that we take 5-minute break before the start of the hearings?
Do we want to officially end the business meeting, or do we have to do that?
That's a good question. We have to adjourn. the
Adjourn.
Just
business
end the
meeting.
business meeting, end the business meeting.
End the business.
I move that we adjourn the business meeting.
Second, Michael.
Okay, Ben, how do you vote?
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Marty,
Yes.
and Leon, yes. So
All
we'll
right.
be back
In
at 5
5,
o'clock.
in
Back
5
in 5.
minutes.
All
Okay,
right.
great.
Background for me on the forms.
Okay,
right,
as
let's
the
meet.
chairman, we
Let's
need to
meet.
start the meeting.
Okay,
So,
let's go.
pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 38, paragraphs 18 through 25, as amended by the Chapter 28, the Acts of 2009, the Wetlands Protection Act, and the Wellfleet Environmental Protection Bylaws of July 1986 and its regulations of January 2000, the Wellfleet Conservation Commission will hold public hearings on Wednesday, September 15th, 2021 at 5 p.m. with a business meeting starting at 4, which has already happened, but via remote meeting pursuant to the Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and the governor's orders imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather together in one place. No in-person attendance or members of the public will be permitted at this meeting. Town hall is closed to the public. Board members will participate in this meeting remotely. Currently, the commission members are Marty Murphy, John Kumbler, Benjamin Fairbanks, Barbara Brennesel, and Mike Fisher, and I think that's it. I think that's
And
all.
Leon.
And me.
And Leon.
I guess I count.
Yes.
Okay. So the first one is Sexton. Is somebody here to speak to that? That's 420 LeCount Hollow Road, map 31, parcel 600. Hillary, do you know anything about this? What was the
Hillary, you're
extension
muted.
they wanted?
I'm on mute. Okay, sorry about that. I just know that he put in a request for a 3-year extension. Our regulations say we can grant up to a 1-year extension. He states that the erosion over the past 3 years has not been bad enough to necessitate the move.
Hillary, I have looked through the back minutes and I can just elaborate a little bit.
Mhm.
Okay.
Please do, Mike.
Okay, so this, if you can you see the screen?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so in 2015, this proposal to relocate was approved. Then it was again applied for in 2018. So it's been 6 years since it was first requested for an NOI to relocate the cottages. And if you can see the screen, you can see what the minutes have on them.
Yeah. It seems to me that they've already extended this 6 years, essentially, that they're just waiting for it to be necessary from their standpoint, it sounds like. I think that a lot's changed since then. It might be a good idea for them, when they think it's necessary, to come back to us with a NOI that we can look at it in current view. Does
Well,
anybody
and
disagree with that?
No, I think it begs the question of, well, how much has the property eroded since we last saw you? How close is the cottage to the edge? I mean, what, I don't know what their plan is because they're not here, so we may as well continue it
Okay,
to our next meeting and ask that someone be present to discuss the proposal.
right.
Sounds
Okay,
good. I move we continue Sexton 420 LeCount Hollow Road.
I'll second that. Marty, how do you vote?
I think I can vote yes.
John, how do you vote?
I'm voting for an extension, not for the extension, but
For continuance.
continuing. So
Yeah, we're
I will
voting on
vote for the continuance, but I do not support the extension.
Right.
Okay, well, we'll discuss that
Well-
next time, I guess.
Right.
Right.
Benjamin?
right.
Yes.
Barbara
Yes,
and Michael.
Yes,
And me, yes. Okay, so we'll continue that until
October
October
6th. October 6th.
6th. Okay. Okay. Johanna, 65 Chequesset Bluff Road, map 19, parcel 140. They'd like a certificate of compliance to be issued. Is there anybody to speak to that?
Yeah, we heard this at our last hearing. I did have conversation with Ben Zender. Doug spoke to Tim Hodgman, and someone was going to be present tonight to address the issue of beach nourishment.
Good
Is
good
anyone
evening.
present?
Good evening, folks. My name is Jim Peluso. I'm an attorney with Burnkoff Goodman in Boston. I represent the folks who just purchased that property several weeks ago, the Cavallos. And I am here. I have spoken with counsel for Suzanne Anthony, who was the one who has owned the property for many years and was the one who is my understanding applied for the order of conditions back in 1991. And it's my understanding, although I don't have any supporting information, that the work was completed and they never, whatever was requested, and that they never then came back to get a certificate of compliance. It's also my understanding that unfortunately there weren't any available records at the commission to determine exactly what was supposed to be done and whether it was done. I know that prior to the closing, when we found that there was an order of conditions, the bank attorney, who was Anthony Mazzeo, contacted some people at the Conservation Commission, and then had Doug Ali go over and reviewed the request for certificate of compliance, and also went to the site and thought that he didn't find any active record, and thought that in these cases what would probably happen is that the department typically recommended the granting of a certificate. Unfortunately, as I now find out, at the prior hearing, which I guess was a couple of weeks ago, nobody appeared before you to explain what the circumstances were. And I am sorry about that. If I had known, I would have been present. And so what we're trying to do is, we've closed this, and the seller is supposed to be responsible for obtaining the order, the certificate for the order. And so I'm here asking that you would be so kind, after 30, I guess it's been 30 years since this was requested, to kindly grant a certificate of compliance for this, based on the inspection of Doug, who went out and looked at the site and didn't see any problems. But obviously that's a decision that you as a board have to make.
okay, hold on. What property are we talking about?
Oh, that would be, I'm so sorry, 65 Chequesset Bluff Road, and which I believe was the second item on your agenda tonight.
Right.
Map 19, parcel 140.
Right. Well, no one's gone out to check that, to see if it's in compliance and to pull the original NOI to see if it was in compliance.
Right,
well-
because it's not available.
So
Hillary,
can I just weigh in? Yeah, we
Yeah,
don't have,
please.
we don't have the original file for this. We have the order of conditions that was recorded at the registry, which talks about access to be by Powers Landing. Vehicles allowed on the beach are a backhoe and a pickup truck. Materials to be stored at Powers Landing. Permission for this is to be requested from the DPW director. Sand used for backfilling should be as close as comparable in grain size as possible. And all disturbed areas are to be revegetated with beach grass and or Rosa rugosa, or thatched until the next planting season. So the wall went in 1991. And the reason at the last meeting that we didn't issue the certificate was because we wanted to have a discussion about whether beach nourishment would be required or not, based on the location of the wall and what the site looked like. So when I spoke to Ben, I believe it was Wellfleet Marine that built the wall. And attorney, correct me if I'm wrong in any of this, because this was just my understanding. Ben was going to reach out to Mr. Pickard at Wellfleet Marine and see what he recommended as far as beach nourishment into the future, because it's easier to tack a condition on now that beach nourishment can be done at this property than it is to come in with a brand new notice of intent application. So I don't know if you can weigh in on that or not, or if this is brand new news to you, but.
Well, it is kind of news to me, because the only information that I had, other than the fact that it was outstanding, and the conversations that Attorney Mazzeo had with Doug, was that he wanted Doug to go out and take a look. And I have a copy of an email from Doug on July 26th to Anthony that basically said, good afternoon, Anthony, regarding the open order of conditions on SE 77-546 as requested. I was able to review the request for certificate of compliance ahead of the scheduled September 1 hearing date. In review of the site and our records, I did not see any foreseeable issues with the site and did not find any active record of this order of conditions. In these cases, the Conservation Commission will still hear and review the request, and the department typically recommends issuing the certificate. And so, I mean, based on that, we closed, and the seller agreed that they would follow up on getting the certificate of compliance, which apparently, unfortunately, they did not show up at the hearing on September 1 to provide you with the information. So I don't know what to say. I know the things that you do are significant and important. I guess my only concern is this is something that goes back 30 years. And I'm not aware, after Doug's review of him, finding that there was anything there that was of concern to him. And so I was hoping that just by my appearing today, the commission would be willing to issue an order of compliance for this 1991 order of conditions.
Okay, I have a couple questions. First of all, is this to do with the seawall?
I honestly don't know what it's about, other than the fact that they were at some point doing so well, because the only information that seems that we have, we're all looking at, is this order of conditions that really, quite frankly, doesn't say a lot. Doesn't tell you what the project was even. Yes, Hillary.
It has to be for the seawall. I mean, the special conditions make sense that it's only for work on a seawall. So I'm fairly certain the work was the seawall. I also think it's okay to issue the certificate of compliance because it is so old and there were no conditions on the original project for beach nourishment. I just wanted someone to talk to someone that was in the field inspecting the site to see if it needed beach nourishment, because once we close it and issue the certificate of compliance without a condition for that, they then need to file a whole new notice of intent, and it's a lot more difficult to obtain that than it is for us to just put a condition on that. But I'm gathering that discussion never took place. And so, I mean, I would recommend that the commission issue the certificate of compliance with the understanding that if and when beach nourishment is required or due, they're going to have to file a whole new notice of intent. That's all. I was trying to save the new buyer a step, but it
Hillary,
translated that way. So
Hillary, that makes a lot of sense. You say if and when, but who's going to determine if and when?
No, their wall will become unstabilized, or their beach will drop such to a point where they need to do it, and they'll call in someone to have a look, and they'll say, "Oh, you need to do beach nourishment to support your wall." So it's just it's fine. We can do it that way.
Okay.
Hillary.
Who's Barbara?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt, but
I just sighed.
I just sighed.
Yeah.
Oh, you just sighed?
Yes, I just sighed.
Oh, I thought I saw your. Oh, that's my hand. Okay. I have my little hand up there. Does anybody else have anything to say? I mean, given that it's 30 years old, that we don't even know the details, and it doesn't look like it's critical right now. As long as we can, this will be readdressed by their need, not ours.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, it's all in their hands to keep track of their seawall. I move that we sign a certificate of compliance approved for 65 Chequesset Bluff Road, map 19, parcel 140.
Second, Michael.
Okay, Barbara,
Abstain.
okay. Benjamin,
Yes.
Marty,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
and Leon, yes. So we will provide you with that certificate of compliance.
Okay, if I can just ask two quick questions. First of all, I want to say thank you, but just to make sure that I understand so I can convey back to my clients. Hillary, can you just give me a little input on how you're defining beach nourishment, just so I can tell them what that means? Because they're going to ask me and I'm not going to know the answer.
Yeah, so that's a compensatory amount of sand that gets placed on the bank or on top of their bulkhead that accounts for the sediment that's not coming out of the coastal bank serving their property. So the natural coastal bank will erode, beach comes out, raises the elevation of the beach during storms, protects against flood damage, filters through the system. When you have a coastal engineered structure of sorts and you don't do beach nourishment, you're not putting any sediment back into the system. So sometimes when there's a lack of sediment drift, these walls become unstabilized when the beach drops. So the beaches rise and they drop with the seasons over time. So beach nourishment is something that we require on all coastal engineered structures these days and have been for quite some time now. So
That's great.
Short and sweet explanation.
Good
but it's
explanation.
Very helpful. Very helpful. Good explanation. I guess the only other question I have is, how does one go about actually getting the certificate of compliance to record? I don't know who applied for it, so I know you've got a name on there and I don't even know who that is because it's not the owner.
So if you send your contact information to myself or Chris Bates, our emails can be found on the town website, and request that we send it to you, we can go ahead and send it to you. It has to be notarized and then sent to the Registry of Deeds, if that's what you prefer. But if you want it sent to Susan Anthony, it's going to go to her attorney, Tim Hodgman, and then he will do what he does with it. So
yeah, I would prefer if it was sent to us. I assume when I receive it, it's already been signed off by the board and just ready to be recorded.
it has to be, notarized and recorded.
But you're the ones that are signing it. Your signatures are being notarized, yes?
Our signatures are on it, yes.
But you don't notarize them?
We don't.
You do not?
We do not.
So how does anybody notarize those signatures? They have to see
When
the
you take
person
it to
sign.
the registry and they stamp it, you'll be fine.
Okay. Send it along, and if it's a proper thing, I'll have it recorded and I'll send you an email. Send it to you, Hillary?
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you very much, folks. I really appreciate your time and effort. Hope you have a great rest of our meeting. Thank you.
thank you.
Yep.
Okay, DeMoss, 30 Ione Road, map 28, parcel 60, certificate of compliance. Is there anyone to speak to that?
I can speak to that. I was the supervisor. It was for
okay.
it was for a septic system upgrade and it was done in compliance.
Okay. I move that we issue a certificate of compliance for 30 Ione Road, map 28, parcel 60. Is there a second?
Second, Michael.
Okay, thank you. Benjamin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Marty?
Staying.
Okay, Mike?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes as well. Marty, why, is that because you're a neighbor or?
Yes, and they're dear friends of mine. And even though I knew about the system being repaired, I didn't know any of the other issues
Okay.
that were before the board.
Okay.
All right, very good.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yep, that works. Okay. Hillary, you said that this first Mass Audubon Society one is going to be continued.
That's going to be continued to October 6th because of advertising error.
I move that we move that the Mass Audubon Society, RD, is it RDA?
Yes.
Yes,
There are two of them for the, which one will I call this?
first one.
Uh,
This is the
For the
the
parking
parking lot.
area
Yeah,
to,
parking area.
to the next meeting.
Okay, I'll second that. Ben, how do you vote?
Yes.
Marty,
Yes,
Michael,
Yes,
John,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. So we'll continue that. Okey dokey. Now we have another one. This is Mass Audubon Society map 41 parcel 182, RDA to fill the road in with 2 inches or 2-inch gravel at east end of the Lieutenant Island Road Causeway. Is there anyone to speak
Hi
to
there.
that?
Yes,
Hello.
everybody. This is Ian Ives on behalf of Mass Audubon. Good to see you all. Good to see you.
Hi, Ian.
Good to
Barbara.
be here.
Yeah, and I did get a message, by the way, from Christine about holding off on that first project. So no worries. We can
Okay.
bring that up in October. So yeah, this project here was at the urging of constituents and Nancy Savetta and others who had reached out to us about this slowly growing road ditch or rut at the location that you see, and urging to do some repairs to it. And it's been, I guess, a long-standing issue for safe travel along that road, which I don't know the name of.
Meadow Road,
Meadow Road.
maybe.
Okay. I'll write that down. Did you all have a chance to get out to see the site today?
No, we
Well,
did not
we're-
go out there.
We didn't go out, but we're very familiar with it.
Okay, all right. So what Douglas had recommended was to reach out to you all, get your feedback on this. He recommended this RDA approach. It's a relatively straightforward, I think, approach that I'm pretty familiar with because in Barnstable at Sandy Neck Barrier Beach, where we do a lot of work, they've done a very similar project of replacing eroded areas of their marsh trail with similar clean gravel of similar size, and have had a lot of luck with it. Having spoken to Nina Coleman, Natural Resources out there, she feels like this is a pretty good low-cost approach to just raising the level of the marsh road, in this case, the trail, and doing so in a way that keeps that fill in place, has really no impact on the marsh because it's not traveling, it's heavy enough that it stays put, it seems to withstand the tides and the use that it's been given. I don't have a good sense as to exactly how much use is taking place on this road because I'm not out there and don't know much about it, but my understanding is it's mainly for shellfish access, and that was Nancy's big concern, but it's also for some constituents that use it for access to get out to other stretches of the flats. Is that correct from your understanding?
Yes, it's a recreational area.
Yeah, okay. So the goal of this isn't to in any way change the access. So as far as we're concerned, this road will not, nor has it been restricted to anyone or, for our staff only. And our improvements really are not going to change the current uses. It's just going to enable vehicles to access more safely. So I really wanted to get your feedback on if you feel like this approach is the best way to fix this rut, which is, again, it's about 384 cubic feet, but that's at the largest. And the photo that you see there is taken in December with a lot of water in it. I think generally speaking, it's much, much smaller than that. And that's just an estimate. Those approximate dimensions that I listed there.
Barbara?
Yeah, I'm
Yes,
going to
anything you'd like to
start
say?
here because this fill involves a marsh. It's a salt marsh. And there are a lot of problems with this area. And I know shell fishermen want access, people want access. I don't know if this particular rut is going to affect access to any of the homeowners or if it's just to the parking area at the end where the shell fishermen go. But I really don't like the idea of putting stone in a salt marsh. It's just against some of our principles of Conservation Commission mandates just to harden a salt marsh. And you know, we're going to start with this little area, but in 2 or 3 years, they're going to extend it to a few other areas. Before we know it, they're going to want to raise the road, pave the road. Sea level rise is a big issue here. And I was involved, I'm going to give a little speech here about this because I think it's important. A few years ago, I was involved on a panel where we studied the effect of climate change on the shell fishing industry in Wellfleet. And one of the things we identified is this road as being an access road that will go underwater, and shell fishermen will no longer have access, and the town should plan for this. This is just like a patchwork. It's not a plan for what's going to happen here. And I'm really opposed to putting stone in this salt marsh area because we don't have a plan for what's going to happen to this road and similar roads in Wellfleet as sea level is rising. And we're seeing that even this year. I mean, it was supposed to be in like 25 years, but we're seeing this more. So I don't approve of putting 2-inch gravel here. I wouldn't mind putting, as the Lieutenant Island homeowners have been paying, Mass Audubon isn't paying for this. It's the Lieutenant Island homeowners, Ian?
I don't know that, actually.
Well, they've been paying for grading of this road for years and years and years. So I don't know what they're doing with grading, but I think they're just moving dirt around to fill the holes. And I don't mind that, but I do oppose putting gravel here because this will be the first time that we see any kind of hardening in this area, which is subject to sea level rise. It's a salt marsh. We don't want to start putting rocks in salt marshes. End of my speech, sorry.
Thank you, Barbara. Nancy, are you there? Do you have anything you'd like to say on this?
Hi, I am here. So, you know, first of all, I want to thank Audubon because they've been a really great partner and a great listener. Yes, I'm aware that this is a road that has been compromised and will likely continue to be compromised. But I feel like the lesser of two evils right now is to try in some way to patch it so that we're not going to get people stuck and create other, you know, degradations. It is an area that does get used all winter long. It opens to the recreational shellfishing public on October 1st. And, you know, I feel like Audubon has been just working hand in hand with the Rights of Public Access Committee and the Shellfish Department to try and remediate a situation. So we're all ears, I think, on ways of being able to do that in the interim. I think that coming up with a town plan is great. And I'm glad you brought that up, Barbara, because obviously this is something that we need to start to really begin to plan for. And now that we have this Rights of Public Access Committee, maybe that's a good venue for some of this discussion and planning to take place. But in the interim, you know, I just think we need to do something now as well. So I would hope that together we could discuss a fix for it as soon as possible.
Well, would a less intrusive fix be to put more sand down in that one area and grade it out, kind of tamp it down rather than putting in gravel? Do you think that would do it?
I don't know. I mean, soft sand, people are going to get stuck in soft sand too.
But isn't that what they've been doing for years down there? I mean,
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
don't.
Is this
I haven't seen anything done in the 4 years I've been here.
Is this
I haven't seen
affect?
anything.
is this affecting access to any homeowners there? It's beyond like that, the path to 4th and 5th Avenues, right? It's past that.
You guys are talking about the wrong parcel.
I'm talking about what is right before the bridge on the left-hand side.
Yeah, they're talking
Right
about
before
the
the bridge.
second island.
We're talking about a different parcel then.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this is not the parcel that this agenda item refers to is what I'm describing. The other parcel that we're not discussing tonight is at the very end of Meadow Avenue in what we call the southwest corner of the island. But that you continue to your first October meeting. This is as you're heading down to the end of Lieutenant Island Road, before you hit the bridge, right after Catboat, take a left.
Okay, it's still a salt marsh. Still a salt marsh. Same issues apply.
I agree with you. And
I
my
believe this is the
comments,
turnoff. That's
I
there.
thought your comments were talking about that.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is the turnoff.
Right.
There's a little parking area, but then shell fishermen, both commercial and recreational, go down to the end.
Okay.
So if you look,
Can they park there and walk? I mean, that's not unreasonable to ask. In terms
You know,
of,
when you're bringing in a bushel of oysters, it's a
know.
lot.
get a
it's a
cart
lot.
with a wheel is what I suggest. I mean, this is an area that we have to protect. That's all I'm saying. A lot of my friends are shell fishermen. I respect their industry and their livelihood, but we're also charged with protecting the resource.
Leon, can I ask a question?
Certainly, Mike, go ahead.
So I'm by no means knowledgeable about this, but is it the gravel that's the problem? If they used, for example, oyster shells or clam shells, would you get the same effect and it wouldn't be a foreign body?
It's still fill. It's still fill. Right, Hillary? It's still considered fill.
yes. Unfortunately, you know, I guess I want to point out a couple things here. The map that's supplied, they show us map 41. It's the red star is the area that we're talking about, right? So it appears on this map that it's actually in the salt marsh. This plan doesn't show the right of way or the road that's traveled. So it's kind of difficult to look at the materials provided and, you know, make a good decision. So usually we see a more refined site plan with an application like this. But yes, the placement of any material is considered fill in these resource areas. So we've seen grading, but we haven't really allowed fill of any kind because it does alter the resource area. And there's an extensive permitting process, which Nancy can attest to, for the placement of even clam shells or oyster shells on land under the water. So it's not such a simple thing. The other point I want to make is that on the actual request for determination of applicability form, under B, determinations, both C and D should be checked. So if the commissioners can go ahead and check D as well. And right in Wellfleet, that's pretty important also.
Okay, I had checked with Douglas to confirm that, and he'd indicated just C, which is why that was the only one checked.
That's okay. We're just going to go ahead and check it.
Dot in the I's, yep.
And then the other section, if we're going to consider issuing a determination, you do need to identify the provisions of the act, which would exempt you from filing a notice of intent. So whether the work is temporary in nature or it's, you know, native material, whatever provisions you think, you know, you want to put in there.
Okay, Nancy?
Would it be helpful if I shared my screen, because I have our Access GIS map that I could show? Would that
Sure.
be helpful?
Yeah, that would.
Okay. Bear with me a minute. Okay, so here, can you see my cursor?
Mhm.
So here's the bridge, and here's that little parking area where all the dog walkers park. And then it comes down here. This is the road. And it comes down here, and then there's a little parking area here. So I think you can probably even see it. Let me see if I can zoom in.
You can see the puddle on that map.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So I think this is an area where the shell fishermen, even the homeowners, have to be aware of sea level rise and what's going to be happening there.
It is.
I know, Barbara, and I get that.
I mean, I'm out there with I'm out there with IFAW, and sometimes we go out with waders. And that might be what they have to do. They might not be able to drive their trucks out there in the future.
I agree in the future. And I think that coming up with a plan for what to do about this situation in the long term is a good one. But in the short term, I guess, I would just want to see that there's something that we might be able to do here to allow access to continue. It's not flooded yet. It's just this one little area.
For what it's worth, my conversations with Nina Coleman, who I described in her scenario, I realize it's different, but she suggested the reason for the gravel would be that it will stay put. If you were to use any other smaller substrate, it washes away and you'd just be putting a Band-Aid on something that wouldn't hold. So that's why she had recommended, that's why they used that material, and that was her recommendation.
Okay, but
yeah.
Using sand or dirt may help with salt marsh subsidence and maybe help to build the salt marsh. It washes away, but you have to do it frequently. It's not a permanent thing.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
that's another side of the story.
Yeah, I think it would be a regular repair, maybe annually or frequently using sand, right?
Right.
John,
right.
do you have something you'd like to say?
Yeah, I guess I don't want to repeat everything Barbara said, but I want to strongly emphasize what she said. I mean, and I understand this is a problem because there's also have done IFAW things, and this is a major problem for us at IFAW, where we've got very heavy marine mammals that we need to move out of the area further south. But gravel is just it's a bad precedent. And I think the Google Maps is a very telling, because what you see there is that this is the beginning of a process by which the water is moving inland and it's searching for a low point. And I think, putting gravel in is the wrong solution. I think it's a temporary one and it will wash away, but I'm not as bothered by sand fill, but anything, gravel just, if nothing else, what's going to happen is we're going to see this again later with more gravel requested north and south of this one spot. And I think, Mother Nature is moving inland at this particular nodal point, and throwing gravel at that spot doesn't seem to me the solution. I think, retreat may be the solution. But I understand property owners, so I understand that.
So, Ian, the Audubon owns this road, this property?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
It's directly on the property line, is my understanding.
Okay, so Audubon should be thinking about issues like retreat and sea level rise. They're doing it. They have signs at the sanctuary, and I think this is a big issue, not only here but other places as well.
I agree. I think our approach would be to do nothing, and that's what I would prefer personally. I think we would all agree with that. This is really more at the urging of others as a safety concern. So I'm not promoting, and I don't think we are promoting putting gravel there. We're just trying to find a compromise to meet both the safety needs, access needs, and the marsh's integrity. So again,
the
out of my way, I do nothing.
problem that we're trying to solve here is what? Is that the road is eroding away, or what are we trying to solve here?
I think we're trying to make access easier.
Okay.
So this puddle has gotten very muddy and deep as compared to the whole rest of the road. Otherwise, the road is just sand, just like any other road. But there, it's become muddy and deep. So, maybe just putting some sand, similar sand there, and seeing if that works.
Do we know?
It'll wash out. Do you see the inlet coming right to the puddle? It's going to wash out. This is not going to be solved by structure or anything. It's just going to keep happening because there's this little creek that goes right to the puddle. And John Cumberland and I walk across this all the time when we have to rescue dolphins there. It's just sea level rise. It's just what's happening here. And it's going to affect the houses on Catboat Road.
Mhm.
Leon?
Yes, John.
I mean, I'm not saying I would support this, but I would find a bridge more acceptable than gravel.
What?
I'm not saying we should do it, but I'm saying if it's so important to maintain that road, I would rather see some sort of bridge where water can move freely than gravel put down.
Yeah.
I think that if the shellfishermen park in the parking lot on Lieutenant Island Road and have a cart with big wheels, they can get out there through that puddle. I don't think that we have to accommodate every use of that area and trade in the value of the resource to do that. So I mean, I love the shellfishermen. They're my best friends. I shellfish out there, but I'll traipse through there with my waders and a cart with wheels and do what I have to do without having to drive there. So that's my issue. It's still accessible if you don't drive. You have waders and a cart or something like that. We use our dolphin cart to get out there, which is a big wheeled like beach cart. I hate to put a kibosh on this, but I would not approve this project.
So how do the members feel if instead of gravel, we were using sand as an experiment to see what kind of amelioration that will give for the problem and how long it will last, if it lasts?
Can I ask a question first before you delve down that road?
Okay.
That's still Phil, Leon. It's still Phil.
All right.
I'm wondering what's flooding it. Is it groundwater or is it the tide?
I think it's the tide. Oh, okay. Thanks.
I think it's sea level rise and the tide. It's not groundwater.
Okay.
Yeah, and rain, surface water runoff. It's a low point. That's my guess. I'm not out there to see it, but that'd be my guess. Combination of many things.
Mhm.
Well, you can just see where the bay is trying to come in, and that's the nodal point. I mean, that seems pretty straightforward to me. Gravel is that's where water is going to go.
That's right.
Well, they're coming back next meeting anyway for the other plot. Perhaps if they gave it some thought and consulted some people about the best way to get access without, in fact, harming the marsh, that would be something to give us some thought so we can continue this. Because I think we're at a dead end now. We're either going to turn it down or it's going to be reconsidered later.
And I guess I just have one more question. If we're coming back to this, I think, do we have beach there? Is it salt marsh? What resource areas are you impacting? It's not, I mean, I'm looking at this map, but I see some beach marked out, what appears to be above and below this area, and I see marsh. So we also need to know what we're altering.
I mean, to the way that I see it, or I've never seen it used as a beach. It's a road that people walk on and drive on.
Well, I believe that voting on this right now as it stands would be not productive. So I don't know what we can do to, I haven't heard any of the suggestions of alternatives that solve this problem. It merely acknowledges the problem, and we have to have a plan that goes farther than that. Is that right, Barbara?
I think so.
Yeah.
And so
So,
looking at Mass
Do
GIS,
we want to continue this? All right, go ahead.
yeah, I just want to point out, real quick before we do continue it, looking at the Mass GIS map, it looks like we have some dune, and I'm struggling to put your star on this map, but it looks like that sort of honeycombing is dune, and then the green sort of hashing is salt marsh. So it would be good to sort of understand where exactly we're placing the fill. I know it's used as a road, but it still could be mapped out as something else, and that's what's relevant in our regulations. So.
So this doesn't even appear as a road, is that right?
Well, you can sort of, so depending on what layer you have turned on or off, if I turn off the wetland line, you can see where the road comes through here. But when you put on the wetland details, it looks like the dune is considered that whole area. So that's kind of a trickier area with different performance standards. So I guess what I'm looking for is sort of more definition on where this puddle is.
Can you overlay a photo, an aerial image to see?
So when I put on the ortho photo, we can see that, and is this the pond?
That's it.
Yep,
You
that's
just
it.
got it. That's it.
Exactly it. It's really it's the elevation of it is at the marsh, but it's definitely a transition zone between the edge of the marsh and the berm or the dune.
So
it's just that. So you've seen it. No, that's it now. You got it right there.
So, but what this is showing doesn't exactly further your cause, because if this is mapped as dune, it's more problematic to do something in. So let's just
You're onto the boundary, it looks, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I just want us to be clear about what we're doing and where, just so that we can have accurate records here if we're going to do something. That's all.
And then maybe, I mean, if anybody wants to meet me over there to look at it, we could do that.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Barbara, or Nancy, is there any way that Catboat Road can be extended to the beach there? I know there's private property owners, but there's no way to
I think
get.
it kind of goes to a dead end, but I guess it's worth looking into. I mean, the Right to Public Access Committee is looking into a lot of areas that we will be losing access on. And then are there town-owned parcels or, Conscom owned parcels or WCT parcels that we might be able to figure out how to get access that way.
Because it seems to me when both the Google map that you gave us and the one that we got in the proposal, this is a lost cause. I mean, this road is gone. I mean, if you filled this in with gravel, that water is going to just push either to the north or to the south of where you have it graveled. It's
Right.
not, it's
Right, I agree.
we can get one season, maybe. And with sea level, as Barbara keeps pointing out, sea level rise, and just looking at the structure of what's going on. This road is a lost cause. And I think a better solution would be to try to figure out if people need to have access, to see if there is another way to get access. Because this road's not going to be an access in, my guess is, in 3 or 4 years.
So it looks like Catbode Road ends at private property.
Yeah.
And
look-
then Ring
all-
Road seems more promising going further. And there is the road layout in the pink. But again, I don't know who owns parcel 0.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't know.
That might be town owned,
Could be.
or that could be something that open spaces could consider purchasing for the use of the town. I mean, that's something to think about.
Good ideas.
Mr. Chairman, might I suggest that we just carry this as was suggested earlier? I think we need a little more information,
Yeah.
especially if there
Yeah.
are other ways to deal with this.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I believe so. So I'll entertain a motion to continue this.
I make that motion.
Second, Barbara.
Okay. So John, how do you vote?
Continue.
We don't know what we're continuing it to. Should we leave it open-ended or?
I
Just
think
till
we
next
leave it
time.
open-ended. I think this is going to require a lot of
Yeah.
brief. And I think that our job is to say, rethink.
Yeah.
I'm not
Okay.
to do that
All
thinking.
right. All right. So this will be an open-ended continuation. John, how do you vote?
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Marty,
Yes.
Benjamin,
Yes.
and Leon, yes. So clearly what was proposed is fraught with some issues. So I think this area especially is immediately subject to changes in the environment as far as water level and the severity of storms. So I think we fall back that we're going to have to examine a longer range plan for some of these things, because we're undoubtedly going to have these issues in a number of different places soon.
Sure. Very good. Thank you all very
All right.
much. I'll see you next time.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Good enough. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Let's move on to Mistros, 2043 Harbor Lights, map 20, parcel 19 RDA, extending the deck 6 foot by 4 foot. We visited this site. It was not going to be connected to the wall or change the flow. It was merely extending a deck slightly to fill in I guess a small tree would have to be removed. Is there anybody to represent this? Doesn't sound like it. Does anybody in the commission have feelings on this? John?
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to have someone here. I'm feeling that this is, to me, not making a major impact on the resource area. The tree that's going out is not, I don't think, a significant tree. They're not extending it into the house. They're just extending the deck a little bit more. There's this, in the larger picture, they should never have built in there, period. But having, I'm not gonna say they can't extend their deck, and whatever that tree is, it will be sacrificed for their dining area. So
Is
I'm
this one of
okay with
the
this.
trailers that's actually raised up above the base flood elevation?
Yes, the trailer
Yeah,
is
so-
raised.
So this is excellent.
Right. Yeah.
Yep, they'll need a ferry to get to their house, but It won't- it won't be flooded.
I agree with John. As presented, it's not a major impact to the wetland. The wetland's already been impacted by this whole development, so
Yeah.
this is very minor, and I think we could approve this pretty easily.
All right.
Okay.
Does anybody else have anything to say? Doesn't sound like it. Okay.
Wait a minute, Leon.
Yes, Michael.
So do we want to say that they have to do some sort of planting and mitigation since they are taking out a tree? It's not a big tree.
It's basically a bush. So
Yeah, I don't know where they could put
yeah,
something. They're on this little tiny plot. I don't know.
it's seeing that it's surrounded by the foundation for the building. I don't see it stabilizing much.
And the resource area is the flood zone. So, I mean, we're not, that shrub doesn't look like it's providing a whole heck of a lot sandwiched in between the two. stairs and
Which they
unit.
which they probably want to cut pretty soon anyway, because it's right in their view.
I'm just encouraged that this is one of the ones that's raised. So I'm.
Yeah.
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 All right. John, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I move that we approve 2043 Harbor Lights, map 20, parcel 19, RDA, extending the deck.
Second,
Right
Michael.
Okay. Ben, how do you vote?
Yes.
Marty?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So that's.
Do you identify if it's a -2 or 3?
It's a 2. It's in the flood zone.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Let's move on to Cook, 30 Main Street, map 15, parcel 15-2, NOI to replace the current accessory building with a pre-constructed accessory building within 100 feet of the wetland area at the same location. We visited this site this morning, some of us, so does anybody have any feelings about it? They're extending the property just slightly.
Mr. Cook is here.
Cook. Yeah, Mr. Cook, would you like to speak to it?
Sure, thank you. Yeah, I'm Peter Cook. I'm here representing my mother who lives at 30 Main Street. And yes, we've known for years that the old structure that's there, the shed, was going to need to be replaced. It's past its useful life, and this other building became available recently. It's got some historic interest, historic value, and some family value too. It's an older building, built about 70 years ago, and by my grandfather. It was in a different location. He owned this house as well at 30 Main Street, and we'd like to, now that it's available, we'd like to move it in and replace the shed with it. It's slightly larger, 2 feet deeper, and then 3 feet on each side, but it's a one-room, one-story structure. Our intention, because the property's been in the family for quite a long time, and it's a 200-year-old house, so we're our objective is to keep the property in as pristine and native condition as possible, and in fact to improve on that, because as those who visited the site today saw, there's some invasive English ivy that's taken over an area immediately next to the old building. Our intention is to take this opportunity of the replacement to go ahead and clear out that ivy and replace it with native plantings. And we've been studying which plantings to use there and working with the local nursery to put a plan together to do that with things that will be in particular, create a native habitat that will be attractive to birds and also to pollinators. So we're hoping this will actually improve the environment. It's a woodland environment immediately next to a wetland. So thank you.
Is the ivy removal and replenishment of the or planting plan, is that part of the NOI? Or
It's not. It's no. No, we didn't
Okay.
mention that in the NOI. That's, we didn't think to include that, but that's been our intention, is to, as anybody who's got ivy on their property, we knows we want to get rid of it. But the other thing is, we've just over in the course of the last few weeks been looking at what to replace it with, and there are some great options, it turns out, with local plantings involving some of the berry bushes, shadblow serviceberry is one in particular, huckleberry, blueberries, and asters, things like that, that we'd like to plant back in that area and really begin to reintroduce some of the native plantings. As you saw at the property, I mean, it is quite wooded and very green, and we just want to build on what's already there.
Hillary, what would be
is-
the best plan
Can
for him to get that done? Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, what is the size difference between the two structures? What is the environmentally friendly foundation? And I don't see the 50-foot filter strip identified on your plan, and I'm wondering where that is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was I worked closely with Doug as we submitted the NOI. So I was focused on the 100-foot buffer. We're not near the 50-foot, but we're within the 100-foot. That was one, trying to be as far away as possible from the 50-foot was one thing that led us to not move the position of the building from where the current shed is to, if we put the larger building in, to not change the site, because it seems to be fairly well thought out already as being distant from the wetland. The size of the building that's there now is 10 feet deep, 12 feet wide. The new building would be 12 feet deep instead of 10. And it would be a total of 18 feet wide instead of 12. So we'd be centering the new building on the side of the old building. So it'd be 3 feet wider on each side. And we try to keep it away from the property boundary. So we're mostly moving the front forward toward the house.
But then there's a pop
Is
out
it-
in the back.
Correct.
Is
Yes.
Is it in the flood zone?
No.
Are you
No, it's not.
certain of that?
Well, I believe so. Well, I mean, I talked with Doug. I also talked with the assessor and went over the maps pretty carefully with both of them.
Leon,
The elevation seems to be well out of the floodplain, and it's of course away from the actual. The floodplain goes in the rear of the property, close to where the wetland is on the that's adjacent to between the property and Route 6. And this is well forward on the property so that it avoids that.
Michael, did you have something you want to say?
Well, it looks like Hillary's in the middle, and I'll follow her.
Okay.
No, I guess I struggle with this because we don't have the full size plan here, and it's really tricky to see. You know, I'm trying to take your structure and scale it onto here because I don't have the full plan. So it makes it difficult.
Oh, okay. We included on the site plan. I thought I included all the dimensions of the building. So it's
Yeah,
18 by 12. There is a 6-foot pop out on the back side of that building, but that doesn't extend in the direction of the wetland. It's to answer your other question, Hillary, regarding the foundation. I mean, the building, when it was originally constructed, was on a traditional concrete foundation, and our intention is to go with something as environmentally friendly as possible. Working with the local builder, he had identified helical coil as a way to go, and just this morning we had a member of the commission who recommended another option, which I'm recommending. I'm passing along to the builder, and that was the, if I have the name correctly, Diamond Pier.
Yes.
Okay. So we want to be as make this as environmentally friendly as possible. And the building will.
I just have one more question here. Looking at this plan that you submitted, are those small leach pits? Are those cesspools? What is going on there?
So the building would have no septic or plumbing. So the site plan is just reflecting what the town has for the septic of the property. And I would have to defer to someone who's an expert on the septic system, but the building that's currently there was placed there in part to avoid the septic system. So those aren't leach pits or anything. There's a Title V septic system that's is installed in the property. And I've already checked to make sure that we're avoiding any contact with the septic. So there won't be any.
I'm seeing a septic tank and a leach pit that I can identify. Then I'm seeing another line that comes out and goes to two things which I can't identify that aren't connected to a septic tank from the main building. So I'm curious about what that might be. And I can certainly fetch out my file back at the office, but the other piece.
I think I see the ones you're talking about, the two that are off. Am I correct? The two
Yeah,
that seem to be attached on the back?
Yeah, I see a brass pipe with two things attached to it. And then I see another pipe coming out near the cellar with two things attached to it that doesn't go through the septic tank. So it's just piquing my interest and making me a little nervous.
So the property, the septic was brought to current code when my parents moved in to the property full time, which was in, I want to say 17 years ago. I'm wondering if this might be, I don't know what those are, but I'm thinking out loud. I'm wondering if those are legacy from an older system, given the age of the house.
Yeah, I don't know. It's piquing my interest and I can't identify it. So that's
there's where you see what looks like the modern septic system. I'm convinced, I know that's the location because I've been there with with getting the system cleaned out. So I do know we're avoiding that, obviously.
And so from your leach pit to your full foundation, you're going to need a 20-foot setback. I can't tell what the scale is, so I can't scale it for you here.
Yeah. So that means from the leach field, it has to be 20 feet?
Yeah, the leach pit to the foundation. I can't.
Right.
To the foundation of that would be the foundation of any structure, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Sorry. I don't want to derail us here. I can.
No, and trust me, we want to do it. We want to make sure it's done right. And so thank you for that. I mean, I'll make sure that that's the case.
So Leon?
Yes, Michael.
I'm sympathetic to this. You're using an existing building, so it'd be difficult to change the dimensions of it. But as I calculated, it's at least twice as large as the current one.
Square footage,
in terms of square footage.
Yeah.
So I would assume that there should be in the application a planting plan for, if you want to take out the ivy, that's great. Planting native species, that's wonderful. But you should have a planting plan which is roughly proportionate to the amount of new land that's covered by the building. The other thing is you mentioned that you're not planning to put any sort of a water or septic in this, and I think that should be an order of condition, that should there be a new owner, they can't then plumb it and put in a toilet or any sort of a water system. So that would probably be part of the order of conditions. I'm not as sure about whether we should also have an order of conditions about electricity. You said you didn't plan to do it, but if you did put electricity, you'd have to, cut up a trench through. And so we might want to say that you'd have to apply, if you did want to put in electricity later on, through another application. So I'm sympathetic, but I think that there should be some conditions, not to prevent you from doing what you want, but prevent a future owner perhaps from doing things that wouldn't be appropriate.
Mhm.
Makes sense.
And I just point out that for any of these projects, I like to see the square footage of disturbance put on the plot plan.
Right, and that's within the 100-foot, right?
Right, within the buffer zone, right?
Right,
Yeah.
so that means that it would primarily be reflecting the current shed size with this one, is that right?
And whatever else is in the 100-foot, which,
Doesn't look like there's much else.
Yeah, as I recall, it was grass and
okay, yeah.
it was
So
lawn.
just the square footage on the plot plan.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I don't see a lot of problems, but I agree with the conditions that other commissioners have identified.
Mhm.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Ben.
Oh, yeah. I was just wondering what your method of removing the ivy was going to be.
Well, we're not there yet. Whatever's the best way to do it, I suppose, is the way we'll do it. I mean, I've had people recommend trying to till it out. If there's a recommendation on how to remove invasive ivy, that would be great. But I mean, our intention, this is a family property. It's 200 years old. We're not selling it. We're trying to improve it. So we want to get rid of the ivy, which came in from a neighboring property many years ago and has since become a problem. We're talking to the local nurseries about putting a plan together to replace it with native plantings. I'm relying on their expertise, quite frankly, and they've been giving me some different ideas on how to remove ivy. But, our intention is to work on an area that's actually much larger than the building, because ivy has taken over quite an area back there in what really is woodland and has created what some have termed an ivy desert. So that we want to replace that with things that are going to be attractive to, again, to honeybees, pollinators of various types, to birds. That's in our interest to make that property add value to Wellfleet and to the environment. And we don't. Sorry,
Well,
but if there's a way to remove ivy, let me know.
Yeah, I have a bit of a quandary with this because
Ben's concerned about the use of herbicides, which we would not like there in this wetland area.
No, we won't use herbicides.
Okay.
So you can just say you're pulling it by hand or doing it mechanically, not using herbicides or something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Right.
So this NOI has to be amended for the planting plan and the removal of the ivy. Is that right, Hillary?
Yes, it should be included in the.
Right. So it sounds to me like we have some information that we need to have added to, but none of it seems to be a gating factor. It's just a matter of completeness so that we have the square footages, and we'll need a planting plan. And it'd be good to give an estimate on what the area is of the ivy that you're gonna be pulling up, and then that'll help guide us on the planting plan as far as if it's complete enough. Yeah, I looked under the trees and I could see the ivy, but how far back are you talking about?
Well, we'd like to take all of it out. Quite frankly, this project that we'd like to complete of rescuing this other building, replacing this existing building, has piqued our interest in trying to take that part of the property, which is, adjacent to the wetland behind the property, and try to make it an improved area that's better for the environment, better for wildlife.
Okay.
So I'd be happy to provide that in whatever way you'd like me to. If you'd like me to work with Doug following your meeting here,
well, that might not
I can
work
make
out.
those additions, or if you want me to
you may have to go to Bourne to do that.
Okay.
Doug's leaving the town, so
Oh,
Somebody will be working with you. John,
okay.
go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see this move on. Is there a way we can have Mr. Cook work with Hillary and incorporate, you know, the suggestions we've made
Yeah.
about the diamond pier, about being
Yeah.
20 feet from the septic system, and the conditions that we talked about in terms of non-use of herbicides.
Right.
Let this person move.
I think Hillary has some issues with that.
Yeah, no, we can't approve this tonight. We don't have a DEP file number. We also need proof of a butter notification because I don't see your abutters list in here.
That's right. NOIs need that.
Yeah, so we
Okay.
don't have the green cards or even
Yeah,
an abutters list.
I emailed that today to Doug, so I can send it to you as well if you'd like.
Perfect.
Is natural heritage involved?
No, not in natural heritage.
Okay.
I did mail it to them just to cover that base though.
Yeah, what I think we ought to do is take a pause on this until next meeting. Get the information put onto the NOI, amend the NOI and the site plan so that it has the information that Barbara requested as far as where's the 50-foot and what is the square footage of the existing shed and what the square footage of the new shed would be, plus all the information John just brought up as far as the foundation, verifying the distance from the shed to the leach field is over 20 feet. Get all that stuff wrapped up, and then we should be able to vote on it. Does that sound about right?
Sounds
Anybody?
great.
Sounds good.
All right, I move that we continue this. Do you think you'd be ready in Mr. Cook, in a week, 2 weeks? You actually have 2 weeks to get the information in. Do you think you can do that?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, great. And you understand what we're asking for?
Yeah, you'd like to know where's the 50-foot line. You'd like to verify the distance to the leach field is 20 or more feet. You'd like to know, you'd like to see something more about the planting plan?
Yeah, we need to know what is the area that you're going to clear, marked on the map, I guess is the best way, and give an estimate on the square footage of that, and then have a planting plan of what you plan on doing to stabilize that area.
Okay.
Okay. And then there was the, let's see, the square footage of the existing shed and the square footage of the new shed, which should be trivial. It's just luckily they're rectangular, so you don't even have to use pi.
No, they're right. The existing shed is a 10 by 12, and the replacement is a total of 252 square feet.
Okay, so that just needs to be put onto the because we track as we move forward in time. We're tracking the disturbance to the buffer or the buffer zone and when it happened, so that it helps us guide us as far as future decisions.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, be certainly happy to do that. Thank you.
Is there anything else that we just missed? Is Mr. Cook was okay? That sounds like that would be adequate. So if you can work with Hillary to get that updated, and if you can do that in 2 weeks, we can continue this until the 6th of October.
We should vote on that, right?
Yes.
We have to vote on that. Yes.
Yes, please.
So move, Barbara.
Okay, second. I'll second it. Benjamin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Marty?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And Barbara?
Yes.
And I also vote yes. So it's good that you came to us. I appreciate what you're trying to do and how you're trying to do it. And I appreciate you coming to us with this. So we'll look forward to seeing the updated NOI and the site plans and things.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, the final one is Callahan, which was continued from a previous meeting. Is there somebody to speak to that?
Bob requested a continuance to our next meeting. They are not going to replace the wall with any structural vinyl. They're going to do a concrete repair. And so he couldn't get his materials in time. So he will be
Okay.
on our 10-6 agenda.
Okay, good. So I move that we continue until the 6th of October, the NOI for 149 Commercial Street, map 27, parcel 120.
Second.
Okay, Benjamin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Marty?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
And I also vote yes. So that one's put off. A lot of continuances today. Is there anything else that we should discuss? I think
Are we going to talk about the Peabody project that we looked at today?
It's not on the agenda.
It's not on
okay,
the,
I can't speak to it.
no, I sent an email to Hillary about what I would like to see in the plot plan.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So right now, do we have a continuance on active continuance on that? Hillary?
No.
That's right. It's just a matter of reviewing what the original
It's
NOI
either-
was.
I was gonna say, it's either an enforcement action or it's a certificate of compliance issue when it comes.
Right. Okay. So since it's not before us now, we don't have to continue it.
Correct.
All right. Well, if nobody else has anything else, I move that we adjourn the meeting.
I second that.
Now you're catching on, Mark. Ben, how do you vote?
Yes.
Marty?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
And I also vote yes. Thank you all for your time today. This wasn't, what time is it? What are we doing on time?
25.
Oh, 25 more minutes. Oh, well. Okay. Thank you all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See you in a few weeks. Bye.